A private jet can cost more than $1 million a year before it moves an inch. No fuel flowing, no passengers boarding, no wheels leaving the runway. The aircraft can sit perfectly still while 2 pilots remain on payroll, recurrent training comes due, insurance renews, navigation databases update, the hangar invoice arrives, and calendar inspections keep counting down. That is why the purchase price is the easiest number in private aviation, and often the most misleading. Today, we are going to model 3 different aircraft: an Embraer Phenom 300E, a Cessna Citation Latitude, and a Gulfstream G500. We will fly each one 150 hours, 300 hours, and 450 hours a year, and we will keep 5 numbers separate: what it costs to acquire the aircraft, what it costs while parked, what every flight hour adds, what downtime can do to the plan, and what the capital may really cost the owner. Because the cheapest jet to buy can be the wrong jet to own, and the most expensive jet in the hangar can still be the rational choice if the mission, utilization, and value of control all agree. Our 3 aircraft live in different operating worlds. The Phenom 300E is a light jet. The Citation Latitude moves into a larger midsize cabin. The Gulfstream G500 is a long-range, large-cabin aircraft with a much larger operating footprint. One current third-party benchmark places average acquisition inputs at approximately $11.79 million for the Phenom 300E, $15.03 million for the Citation Latitude, and $25.04 million for the Gulfstream G500. Those are modeling inputs, not offers, appraisals, or predictions of what any individual airplane will sell for. 2 aircraft with the same name on the tail can have radically different values. One may have complete records, fresh inspections, enrolled engines, current avionics, and no major event approaching. Another may need connectivity, paint, an interior, a calendar inspection, or expensive maintenance soon after closing. That is why serious aircraft acquisition starts before the purchase agreement. The buyer may need legal review, title and escrow, a detailed records review, a pre-purchase inspection, insurance approval, financing, tax and ownership structuring, crew planning, and a place for the aircraft to live. If the inspection finds something, the purchase price may not change, but the economics do. The first question is not simply, can I afford this jet? It is, can I buy the right aircraft in the right condition for the missions I actually fly? Aircraft operating costs fall into 2 broad groups. Variable costs rise as the aircraft flies. Fixed costs arrive whether it flies or not. Crew compensation and benefits. Recurrent training. Hangar. Insurance. Maintenance tracking, navigation databases, and professional services. Management and administration, and calendar-driven work that does not care how many trips the owner took. Using one consistent third-party model, the annual fixed cost base is approximately $619,000 for the Phenom 300E, $679,000 for the Citation Latitude, and $1.21 million for the Gulfstream G500. That is before the first modeled gallon of fuel. The exact figure moves with the operating structure. A Phenom owner using a qualified single-pilot structure will not have the same crew economics as an owner who requires 2 pilots for every trip. A hangar in a constrained major market is not priced like one at a regional airport. An aircraft expected to launch internationally on short notice needs more staffing and support than one flying predictable domestic missions. Insurance depends on the aircraft, the pilots, the use, and the owner's history. The fixed cost number is not a universal invoice. It is the price of maintaining readiness. That is the important mental shift. The owner did not only buy an aircraft. The owner created a small operating company whose product is a safe, legal, maintained airplane that is ready when the mission arrives. Now let the airplanes fly. The modeled variable cost is approximately $2,881 per hour for the Phenom 300E, $3,808 per hour for the Citation Latitude, and $6,647 per hour for the Gulfstream G500. Fuel is only part of that figure. The model also carries maintenance, engine and auxiliary power unit exposure, crew travel, and other operating categories. It is not a charter quote. Charter pricing must also absorb positioning, commercial overhead, demand, operator margin, and the risk that the aircraft's next trip will not match the one before it. And this is not the aircraft's complete economic ownership cost. It does not automatically add financing, the owner's opportunity cost, market depreciation, or every unplanned maintenance event. Think of variable cost as the meter that begins running when the trip begins. The larger point is what happens when that meter is added to a fixed flight department and then divided by the number of hours the owner actually uses it. Start at 150 hours a year. At that level, the aircraft may be useful, but fixed infrastructure is being spread across relatively few hours. The modeled annual cash operating budgets are approximately $1.05 million for the Phenom 300E, $1.25 million for the Citation Latitude, and $2.21 million for the Gulfstream G500. Divide each annual budget by 150 hours, and the effective cash cost becomes roughly $7,010 per hour for the Phenom, $8,333 for the Latitude, and $14,724 for the G500. Now increase utilization to 300 hours. The annual budgets rise because the aircraft fly more, approximately $1.48 million for the Phenom, $1.82 million for the Latitude, and $3.21 million for the G500. But the effective hourly cost falls, about $4,945, $6,071, and $10,685. Finally, at 450 hours, the benchmark reaches its original utilization assumption. The annual cash budgets become approximately $1.92 million for the Phenom 300E, $2.39 million for the Citation Latitude, and $4.20 million for the Gulfstream G500. The effective hourly costs fall again, about $4,257, $5,317, and $9,339. The airplanes did not become cheaper to fly. Their modeled variable cost per hour did not decline. The fixed flight department was simply spread across more use. That is the ownership equation hiding in plain sight. Annual fixed cost divided by annual flight hours plus variable cost per hour. But it is still a cash operating view, not the final economic answer. Spreadsheet ownership is orderly. Real ownership is not. A pre-buy or scheduled inspection can uncover corrosion, a worn component, a records discrepancy, an avionics problem, or work that must be completed before the aircraft returns to service. The invoice is only the first cost. There may also be a missed trip, replacement charter, crew disruption, positioning, storage, and a future buyer asking why the aircraft spent so long grounded. Maintenance programs can make certain expenses more predictable. They do not make the aircraft immune from downtime, exclusions, or work outside the program. This is where older aircraft can create a seductive trap. The purchase price may fall dramatically, while the physics do not. An older large cabin jet can sell for the price of a much newer light jet and still consume fuel, crew, parts, hangar space, and maintenance labor like the large aircraft it has always been. The market can discount the asset without discounting the operating class. That does not make every older aircraft a bad purchase. It means acquisition price and ownership exposure must never be confused. Up to this point, we have modeled annual cash operating cost. That is useful, but incomplete. If the aircraft was financed, the owner may have interest and transaction costs. If it was purchased with cash, that capital can no longer earn a return somewhere else. The aircraft may gain or lose market value. An upgrade may improve utility without returning its full cost at resale. And selling the aircraft creates its own brokerage, legal, inspection, and market timing exposure. This is why two owners can operate the same model for the same number of hours and still experience different economics. One may define success as the lowest possible cost per hour. Another may value guaranteed availability, privacy, cabin control, security, and the ability to reach places a scheduled airline or charter market serves poorly. Those benefits can be economically valuable even when they do not appear as a line item. But they do not make the cost disappear. The disciplined view keeps two ledgers, the cash operating ledger and the broader economic ownership ledger. Mixing them creates a false number. Ignoring either one creates a false decision. NBAA says full ownership is generally a good option when a company plans to use an aircraft for at least 250 hours a year. But NBAA also notes that some users buy below that level because the benefits can still justify ownership. So 250 hours is context, not a universal break-even. The decision begins with the mission. Are the same routes flown repeatedly? Does the owner need control over departure time, cabin configuration, security, pets, equipment, or last-minute changes? Will one aircraft cover most missions without routinely carrying empty capability? Is the base close to the actual passenger demand? Can the flight department support the schedule without relying constantly on contract coverage? And how much is guaranteed access worth to the owner's business or life? For some travelers, charter is financially cleaner because the operator owns the asset and absorbs most of the operational complexity. For others, aircraft control is the point. The airplane needs to be configured, crewed, and ready around a specific mission. The wrong question is, at exactly how many hours should every wealthy traveler buy a jet? The better question is, does ownership buy enough control and mission reliability to justify the cash and capital exposure? Aircraft buyers also hear a powerful phrase, bonus depreciation. Current IRS guidance says certain qualifying property acquired and placed in service after January 19, 2025 may be eligible for a 100% special depreciation allowance. But an aircraft does not become a deduction because someone calls it a business jet. The IRS says accelerated depreciation for business aircraft requires qualified business use tests, including a 50% test and a separate 25% test. Use is analyzed flight by flight, records must be maintained, and a later failure can trigger recapture. Tax treatment can change when a deduction is recognized. It does not make the aircraft free, and it cannot rescue the wrong mission, the wrong aircraft, or an operating plan that never worked. We will cover aircraft depreciation in a dedicated episode with specialist review. For this decision, the tax layer stays behind a qualification gate. So what does it really cost to own a private jet? It costs the aircraft. It costs the flight department that keeps the aircraft ready. It costs every hour the airplane flies. It costs the maintenance event that was expected and the disruption that was not. And it costs the capital tied to an asset whose value can move while it sits in the hangar. In our illustrative 300-hour cash model, the annual operating budgets are approximately $1.48 million for the Phenom 300E, $1.82 million for the Citation Latitude, and $3.21 million for the Gulfstream G500. Those numbers are not quotes. They are a framework for asking better questions. No one of these aircraft is universally best. The right answer exists only when the airplane, mission, utilization, operating structure, and value of control agree. The purchase price is the admission ticket. The real annual cost is what it takes to keep the promise that the aircraft will be ready when the owner needs it. And that explains the next question. If someone can afford to own the aircraft, why would they still choose not to? In the next episode, why some billionaires still charter.